Early in algebra, you learn how to take two binomials like x minus 2 and x plus 5, and you learn how to multiply them together to create x squared plus 3x minus 10. So in other words, you took a product of two binomials to create a sum. In this video, we're actually going to reverse the process. So in other words, if we take a sum like x squared minus 2x minus 24, what two binomials were multiplied together to create that sum? So with no further ado, let's get it on! Let's take a look at how this process works here. So you can see that we have up here, we have factor the quadratic, that's our directions, and x squared minus 2x minus 24. So x squared minus 2x minus 24 would be our sum, and we're looking for the two sets of parentheses that multiply together to be this. Now, just a point of reference here, it's called factoring, what we're doing here. So working backwards is just, we call it factoring in math, and it's called a quadratic because x squared. The highest power is a 2, and in math we call that a quadratic. There's many methods for doing this. I'm going to show you the one I prefer, which is called the box and the diamond method here. And how this works is we're going to take the first term up here. So that first term would be x squared, and I'm going to write it in the bottom left corner over here. We're going to take the number term here, and I'm going to write it in the top right hand corner. So once we've done that, we're going to try to figure out what these other two boxes are using the diamond. So step one for starting to fill out the diamond is multiply these two together. So negative 24 times x squared is negative 24 x squared. And then we take the x term up here, negative 2x, and put it down here. So how diamond problems work is like this. We're looking for two things that multiply to be negative 24x squared, but they also have to add up to be negative 2x. So let's look at things that multiply to be 24 first. So let's come up with a list. So I have 1 and 24. 2 and 12 would be another possibility. I have 3 and 8. And I also have 4 and 6. Now, some people do this in their head, but I prefer to write a little list here. So because we're looking for things that multiply to be negative 24, one number is going to be negative and one's going to be positive. And they have to have a difference of 2. And then because it's a negative 2, one of them is going to have to be negative, one's positive. So the winner is right over here, the 4 and the 6. That has a difference of 2. And because we need it to add up to be negative 2x, it's going to be negative 6x and a positive 4x. So adding these together gives us negative 2x, and if we multiply them, it gives us negative 24x squared. I'm going to take these two answers here, negative 6x and positive 4x, and I'm going to put them back here in the box. It really doesn't matter which one goes where. Then what we're going to do is we are going to look at this and see what multiplies to be each of these things here. So for instance, see this x squared. I could put an x here and I could put an x here. X times x is x squared. Now I need something to multiply by the x to get positive 4x. Well, that would be a positive 4. Then I need something to multiply by the x to give us negative 6x. Well, that would be a negative 6. So negative 6 times x is negative 6x. And then the check is, what's negative 6 times positive 4? Well, it's negative 24. And so then the final step is just to write our answer. So on the left-hand side over here, that's going to be our first set of parentheses, x plus 4. And then our second set's going to be along the bottom here, x minus 6. And that's it. And just a point of reference also, this down here, what I'm putting the red star by, that is your answer. All the stuff here in the middle is nothing more than work. It's the method used to come up with it. So when you're done with your box, you do need to write out x plus 4 in parentheses and x minus 6. As always, if you like what you see, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you, and now back to part 2. Let's go ahead and try another problem. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. So we have factoring the quadratic, and it's going to be 2x squared minus 27x plus 36. So this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw in a box. It's not, greatest box in the world, but it'll do here. So here's my box, and then I'm going to draw in my diamond problem over here. How the method works once again is we take our x squared, that's going to go in the bottom left, and we take our number, which in this case is 36, put it in the top right. Next, we're going to multiply these two together. Grab a calculator, do it in your head. 36 times 2 is 72. So we now have 72x squared, and then we write the x term at the very bottom. negative 27x. From this point, just to remind you, we're looking for things that multiply to be 72 and add up to be negative 27. A little word before we come up with our list, because we're multiplying to be a positive number. Either we're going to have two negatives or two positives, and because they add up to be a negative number, it's going to be two negative numbers. So let's start doing our list here. So I'm going to go ahead for 1 and 72. Then I check the next number, 2 and 36. Does 3 go in? Yes, it does. It goes in 24 times. 4 goes in 18 times. Does 5 go into 72? It does not. What about 6? Yes, it does. 6 times 12. 7 does not go in evenly. And then finally 8 times 9. And so you'll notice here as I'm going up on the left-hand side, 1 through 8, I'm also getting smaller on the right-hand side. And when you get basically about equal, you know you're done. You've come up with all the possibilities. So we're looking for two numbers that are going to add up to be 27, and then we just make them both negative. So that would be over here, we have the 3 and the 24. So I'm going to go ahead and make one of them negative 3x. The other one's going to be negative 24x. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put them in the box over here. It doesn't really matter which one goes where. Just put one in one box, one in the other. From here, we're going to ask ourselves, so what do these have in common right here? 3x or negative 3x and 2x squared. Well, the only thing I can think of that goes into both of them would be an x. So I'm going to put an x right here. X times what gives us 2x squared? Well, that's going to be a 2x. So once again, 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times what is negative 24? Well, that's going to be a negative 12. And then finally, x times what is negative 3x? That's going to be a negative 3. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and take what's on the left-hand side, put that in parentheses, 2x minus 3, and take what's along the bottom, x minus 12, and put that in parentheses. And this down here, everybody, that is our answer. Hope you got a lot out of this video, and I hope you stick around for part 2 to learn even more about factoring quadratics.